Hello YouTube, this is Tim the Train Guy here once again. Welcome to the first installment of Locomotive Displays of Arizona. So, for those of you who don't know, I live in Arizona, and so there's a lot of locomotive displays here, surprisingly. So today we're gonna start looking at some. Basically what this series is gonna be is me going around the state looking for various locomotive displays. So today we're going to kick things off at the Arizona Railway Museum, where there's a lot of them, as you can kind of see there in the background. All right, let's get into it. All right, so first up, we got the Homestake Mining Company engine number 5. This is a compressed air locomotive, meaning it was driven by compressed air in that tank there, and that's what drove the wheels. It was used by the Homestake Mining Company in North Dakota, I believe. Let me see here. Oh no, it was South Dakota, my bad. And yeah, you can see it's a pretty simple design. It was built by the Porter Locomotive Company. Museum also has a selection of track speeders, which were used for track inspection from various rail lines and companies. There's not really much interesting to say about them, so we'll move on. Up next, we got a crane, a self-propelled crane from the American Hoist and Derrick Company. It was, as you can see, it was owned by the United States Army Transportation Corps. It worked at the munitions depot at the Navajo Army base in northern Arizona. I know this isn't technically a locomotive, but really I don't care. It's still cool. And you can see there that's crane arm. It was later sold to a steel company in Tempe, Arizona, and was then retired in 1997 and donated to the museum. Next, we got this Southern Pacific Maintenance of Way wrecking crane here, a steam-powered wrecking crane. Again, I know, not a locomotive, but you're not my dad and you can't tell me what to do, so, and still worth a mention. So, yeah, as I mentioned, it was used by the Southern Pacific Railroad for their Maintenance of Way division. It was an oil-burning, steam-powered crane. It spent its entire career in Tucson, Arizona, and was donated to the museum, purchased by the museum in 1992, and it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places on December 29th of 2007. And also it's got this this nice little tender car here with it. Next one is a beautifully painted General Electric switching locomotive. It's a diesel engine from the Kennecott Copper Corporation, painted in its lovely bicentennial scheme. Now, this locomotive was originally purchased by Kennecott Copper Corporation in the 50s, and it was later sold to the Asarco Smelters in Hayden. And prior to its donation to the museum in 2017, of which I attended its donation ceremony, it was restored and repainted into this color scheme by a man named Jake Jacobson. Right behind 801 is number 81 from the Asarco Smelters Company. So, this locomotive was built by the Plymouth Locomotive Company in 1949 for the Kennecott Copper Company, a predecessor to Asarco. And it originally had a gasoline engine, but was replaced with a Cummins diesel engine that they salvaged from another piece of equipment. It also had the one side of the cab extended there, so they could improve the visibility of the crew. It also received a affectionate nickname Donkey from crews, based on its horrible and stubborn reliability. Next up, we got the Magma Arizona number 10, originally McCloud River Railroad number 29. It was built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1950 for the McCloud River Railroad, and later sold to the Magma Metals Company, aka Magma Arizona Railroad, as I said earlier, but anyway, and it was sold to them in 1969. And unlike a lot of Baldwin diesels that are still around, this one is still in operating condition, and it still has its original prime mover. Alright, last on this track, but certainly not least, is Arizona Railway Museum number 1, aka the George E. Holt. So this engine was built by Plymouth. It's an ML8 model, and it was originally used by the United States Army Transportation Corps. It has a gasoline engine and a mechanical transmission and chain drive. Unfortunately, this locomotive is not in operating condition due to the fact that its air compressor for the brakes went out. Now, the locomotive was donated to the museum in 1988 and was restored to working condition by a man named George E. Holt, who it is named after. But unfortunately, like I said, the brakes went out on it, so it's currently just kind of sitting because they don't have money to fix it. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but at least it's still around. And now for one of my favorite locomotives here, Southern Pacific number 2562. This consolidation type steam locomotive was built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1906 for the Southern Pacific Railroad. It's an oil burner, and it served mostly in Tucson, Yuma, and Phoenix. And in 1984, it was placed on the Arizona State Historical Register. Alright, here's just a look inside the cab. There's the engineer's seat and all the controls and everything, and mounting spots where there would be gauges. And this gauge here was actually not originally here, but it was given to the museum by a good friend of mine named Chris, so shout out to him. Basically this was a temperature gauge. And also up here is the bell. So, you know, you can do that. Almost tripped there. Over here we have the pieces of Arizona Copper Company number 7, built by the Porter Locomotive Works. This was a recent donation to the Arizona Railway Museum from the Phelps Dodge Mining Company and the Arizona Eastern College. It was donated back in 2019, and it arrived, as you can see, it arrived in pieces, and we're working to reassemble it. I doubt this thing will be operational, but you never know. Also at the museum is this PCC type streetcar from the Toronto Transit Commission. It was originally from the Toronto Transit Commission in the 1930s, but it was later sold to the city of Phoenix in 1996 to become part of a transportation display in downtown Phoenix. Shut up, airplane. Anyway, and it was late, but the plans for the said display fell through on the city, and the car was sold to the Arizona Railway Museum for the steep price of $1. Another piece that's technically not a locomotive, but I still thought was worth a mention, is this San Manuel Arizona Railway rider car. Now, this is a combination hopper car and cab car. There would be a brakeman or a conductor in there, and basically they would radio to the locomotive at the other end that, hey, we're coming up on a crossing or a red signal or something like that. It was also fitted with an air horn so they could warn motorists at level crossings. It was donated to the museum back in 2017 by Capstone Mining Company. Last but not least, we have this EMD E8 diesel locomotive. Now, this locomotive was built by the General Motors Electromotive Division for the Chicago Northwestern Railway, and after Amtrak took over passenger service in the 70s, it found its way to California, where it became a movie star in the movie Torque, starring Ice Cube. Now, I personally don't know much about the movie as I haven't seen it, but if anyone knows anything about it, let me know in the comments. So, yeah. And it was purchased by a private owner in 2006 and moved here to be stored and displayed. Alright, so that's about all for this installment of Locomotive Displays of Arizona. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully there will be more of this to come in the new year. So again, thanks for watching, and bye for now.